The entity that struck every firstborn in Egypt has a name. It's not the name you were given. Ancient traditions, the most forbidden, most suppressed interpretations of the oldest texts, name the destroyer specifically. And the revelation doesn't just change that one night in Egypt. It changes everything you thought you knew about the most powerful angel in existence. His name is Metatron, and according to the oldest lore, this wasn't a role assigned only once. It's the function some traditions attach to him. Exodus chapter 12. The Israelites mark their doors with blood, not to guide an angel, but to protect themselves from one. The original Hebrew describes what enters those unmarked homes as simply the destroyer. No name, no face. Just a deliberate, chilling absence of detail. That vagueness was not an oversight. It was a precaution, because naming this entity was considered an act of invocation. What happened inside those houses was not described as a gentle passing in the night. Ancient tradition frames it as a silent, targeted unraveling, centered on the young, the developing, the firstborn whose lives had barely begun. This was not divine mercy. This was a judgment. The oldest, most guarded interpretations of the Talmud make a claim so uncomfortable it has been softened, buried, and reframed for centuries. They say the destroyer, the architect of the 10th plague, was Metatron, and not as a one-time assignment. The ancient texts preserve a title as specific as it is unsettling. Metatron is the angel of death, in some traditions specifically connected to children. The most powerful being in the heavenly hierarchy, a figure some ancient rabbis literally called the lesser god, is given a narrow and disturbing role. He doesn't stand over all of humanity in these readings, only the young. His connection to children isn't peripheral to his function, it is central to it. In Avodah Zarah 3b, one passage has been softened over the centuries into something almost compassionate. Metatron teaches the souls of children who have passed. Read it again. In context, he isn't simply teaching them. He is portrayed as acclimating them, untethering their souls from the memory of life, preparing them for a celestial existence tied to the same force that sent him to collect them. It is not education. It is initiation into the world beyond death. But here's the part they never tell you. Before Metatron was this, before he was the cosmic reaper of children, he was human. The Third Book of Enoch, ancient, mystical, and deliberately obscured from mainstream theology, contains the answer. Metatron was the biblical patriarch Enoch, the man who, according to Scripture, walked with God and was no more. Most traditions read that phrase as ascension, a reward, a peaceful departure into the divine. They are wrong. The Book of Enoch describes what was no more can mean in later mystical interpretation. Enoch was taken not to a gentle heaven, but to something that can only be described as a celestial operating table. And there he was remade. His flesh turned to writhing flame. His veins became channels of liquid fire. His eyes dissolved and reformed as burning torches. His bones were stretched, elongated, until his form expanded to the size of the world itself. This was not ascension. This was transformation. The deliberate disassembly of a human life, followed by the cold, surgical construction of something else entirely. He was given a new name, Metatron, and a singular, irrevocable purpose. The Talmud records the aftermath in Haggadah 15a. Metatron is the only angel permitted to sit in the presence of God, a status so singular that when a great rabbi named Elisha ben Abuya witnessed it, he declared, "There are two gods." For this perceived heresy, Metatron received 60 fiery lashes. But this was not punishment, it was refinement, like iron in a forge. The lashes burned away what remained of the man, the last traces of compassion, of hesitation, of humanity. They made him precise, clean, effective. We're about to get to the part the ancient scholars feared most. But first, If these stories deserve to be told, subscribe, hit the bell, and stay with us. This is the true Metatron, not the celestial secretary, not the angelic messenger of New Age spirituality, not the benevolent heavenly guide, a being of transformed flesh and cosmic fire. His title, the Lesser YHWH, is not merely metaphor in these traditions. It is his function, a viceroy of death, a prince whose shadow falls across every cradle, and his origin as a human being is precisely what makes him so terrifying. He knows how a soul clings to a body. He remembers the feeling. He knows the attachment, the frailty, and because he knows all of this, he knows exactly how to sever it. Now here's what the ancient texts say that should concern you, not only in Egypt, not only in the ancient world. Now, the traditions are explicit. An entity forged for a specific, terrible purpose does not simply vanish from the imagination of the faithful. The same cold that settled into the houses of Egypt, that sudden drop in temperature, that pressure change that makes your ears ache, that scent of something burning with nowhere to burn, are described in later lore as recognizable signs of his presence. The lore says his shadow still lingers, a name invoked when people try to explain the unexplainable. Is Metatron the angel of death for children? The oldest, most forbidden texts answer with a single, resounding, horrifying yes. Or at least, that is how one dark stream of tradition remembers him. Not a modern reinterpretation, not a reframing. An old tradition, deliberately buried, sanitized, and suppressed because the truth was considered too dangerous to leave in plain sight. Enoch walked with God and was no more. The man was erased so the weapon could exist, and the weapon was never forgotten. This is the lore they tried to bury, the traditions too dangerous to leave unguarded. And if you believe the darkest stories deserve to be dragged into the light, subscribe. Hit the bell. Stay close. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever felt that unexplained cold? That drop in pressure? That scent you couldn't place? Because according to the oldest traditions, you may already know why the story endured.